Yuan, our main guy, parks a red supercar on campus. The engine turns every head nearby. He is the richest kid in this school. A senior climbs out of his passenger seat. A classmate grinds his teeth at the sight. Yuan leaves with his arm around her waist. Family money pays for her shopping too. Then a red cross seals the family office. The agencies fold, so his crew stops answering. Yuan ends up alone on the dorm roof. He wonders if he can live well again. His girlfriend Wanting tells him to stop calling. She dated him 3 years, all of it paid for. Yuan just stares at her, sweating. He asks how 3 years break this fast. She walks to a black car instead. A friend is already waiting to drive her. He asks for the designer bags back, so she snaps. Yuan smirks since the bags were the relationship. The driver leans out and offers a pity ride. Yuan smiles and asks him to take care of her. Wanting settles in while the driver promises. Then Yuan lists her bedroom habits out loud. The driver bares his teeth and sweats. The car tears off before Yuan finishes. He drops it and looks up at the towers. A chime rings and a golden window opens. It names him the host, worth 87 yuan. The perfect life system triples money spent on a woman who likes him. Yuan doubles over and calls it a hallucination. His counselor, Teacher Lee, tells him to man up. A pink 65 hangs over her head. Only the system can draw that number. 65 clears the rule, so she qualifies. Yuan tests the cashback on the cheapest gift. He grabs her wrist and asks her to wait. She blushes and tells him not to be formal. He hands over a milk tea that costs 6 yuan. Teacher Lee takes the cup and thanks him. His bank texts 18 yuan back, 99 total. Triple cashback works, so bigger gifts pay more. 99 yuan buys nothing worth giving. He stacks loans up to 49,000. Now he needs a gift that looks expensive. An hour later, the gift box goes in a bin. He keeps a fake of a 39,000 bag. He knocks on Teacher Lee's door with it. She opens up in an apron holding a ladle. Yuan offers the bag as a student thank you. She refuses, since helping students is her job. He swears it is a 200 yuan fake. She accepts it, so his pride survives. Her pork is burning, so she waves him inside. A second chime goes off beside his ear. The bank credits 119,000. The bag cost 39, so he cleared 80. Yuan throws his arms wide on a mountaintop. Walking back, his roommate points ahead. 2 girls come toward them with bubble tea. A pink 72 burns over one girl above his teachers. A voice behind Yuan asks Manhwa, the class beauty, if she heard about the breakup. Her friend leans in with the gossip while Manhwa sips her drink. Manhwa blushes and glances over at Yuan, who is standing right there. Walking off, the friend regrets telling her to buy him drinks during training. 4 pink numbers drop over Manhwa's head, and her affinity slides to 69. Yuan grabs Lao Huang and asks if he would mind him dating Manhwa. Lao Huang rubs his chin, since the sports car is gone and so are the odds. Lao Huang only cares that she avoids the rich classmate, so Yuan takes his shot. Yuan strolls up and greets her as Comrade Manhwa, which lands a little weird. Her friend throws an arm out and demands to know what he wants. Yuan asks if she is free tomorrow because he booked a table at a sushi place. Manhwa freezes and her friend asks whether he can even afford that bill. Yuan adds that she should help him pick a birthday gift for his sister. He waves and walks off, leaving her to answer him by noon. Manhwa panics since she watched a movie with the rich classmate today. Her friend points a finger and says at least Yuan has the better face. The friend calls it one dinner and a stroll, then offers to text him back. The next evening, the two of them walk into a Japanese restaurant. A waitress sets down skewers and hands over the menu for 2. Manhwa says his family is struggling and he should not spend this much. Yuan waves that off and tells her the flavor here is worth every yuan. Up close, his whole face is red, and he is ordering himself to stay calm. She sips from her cup and asks why he really invited her out tonight. Her affinity slides down to 66 while she waits for an answer. Yuan panics inside because the number is dropping on him again. He clears his throat and buys himself 2 more seconds. Yuan brings up the drink she bought him back during basic training. Her affinity climbs again and she leans in, delighted that he remembers. Both of them sit at the counter while Yuan repeats "calm down" to himself. 40 minutes later, he pays a bill of 2,700. Manhwa does the math, since that is nearly her whole monthly budget. His phone buzzes with a bank message on the way out. The system posts a task about spending on someone who already likes him. Her affinity hits 76, and Yuan counts 10,000 yuan of profit. Minhui glows beside him, and Yuan decides money makes her prettier. She takes his hand for the mall, and that is where the evening turns. A man in glasses at the mall asks, wanting what Yuan is doing here, wanting stares since they split yesterday and he already has company. The man is June, her driver from yesterday, buried in bags he bought for her. Yuan turns around and suggests they try some other stores first, wanting blocks them, and demands to know who the girl beside him is. Yuan calls it a coincidence and says he came for his sister's gift. Jun points a finger and sends him to the toy wholesale market instead. Wanting warns the stranger beside him not to get fooled by this guy. Yuan asks who exactly he ever fooled and whether she means herself. Jun folds his arms and lectures him about class in front of an ex. Yuan goes cold because Jun drags up the bankruptcy in the open. The system posts a second task about raising other people's negative emotions. Yuan drops the plan to spare them, since a task means he gets to act. He walks Minhui into the boutique to take a proper look around. Two clerks argue quietly over who has to serve the bankrupt ex-regular. The senior clerk snaps at her and orders her over there anyway. Wanting picks her bag at the counter and asks Jun to pay for it. One clerk promises to handle it, and the junior grumbles about unfair splits. The clerks praise Wanning's taste and dig at customers who have none. A gloved hand opens a box of charms priced near 100,000. Yuan tells Minhui to stop trying to save money on his behalf. A clerk says the two bags together run past 50,000 yuan. Jun's face falls since he expected a 20,000 bag at most. Wanting leans on him and tells him to show some boyfriend strength. Yuan raises two fingers and orders both bags plus the accessories. Wanting and Jun snap around with lightning behind their frozen faces. Minhui covers her mouth and asks if he was not supposed to be broke. The clerk announces a total of 131,000 yuan. The clerk trembles over her card reader while Yuan checks his balance. Yuan holds the card out and tells her the whole thing goes on plastic. Both clerks tear up over the biggest sale anyone made today. Wanting storms over and asks where a bankrupt man found that money. Yuan tells her to think whatever she likes, then turns on Jun. Jun's jaw tightens while Yuan prices out his luxury sedan for him. Wanting pushes him to show his power, and his loan payments haunt him. Jun yanks out his phone and claims a call just came in. He fake argues about million yuan projects and walks straight out. The pair leaves and their negative points sit at -45. Yuan holds a bag out and tells Minhui that it belongs to her. He calls it an apology for the comments she had to sit through. Yuan admits the bags were never really meant for his little sister. Minhui pulls back, afraid the full set makes her look like a gold digger. His hands close over hers on the handles and end the argument. Yuan grins beside her and promises they have plenty of time ahead. The system pays back 6 times the spend, and his balance jumps to 786,000, so the broke kid is now sitting on a fortune nobody knows about. Yuan keeps his fingers locked with Minhui and calls her his money tree in his head. He smiles and tells her to head back to school because rushing this would ruin everything. Minhui blushes since Yuan never brought up a hotel the way Junpeng, her other suitor, did. Junpeng struts downstairs in a Gucci tracksuit while his friends praise him for landing the class beauty. He lifts his voice on purpose so Yuan hears it, then invites the whole class out to celebrate. Yuan stops at the door of room 503 with one hand on the handle and says nothing. His roommate drags off a headset and snaps that the speech was aimed straight at their dorm. Yuan stands over the chair grinning and promises Junpeng will not stay upright many more days. The roommate spins around and brings up the movie date from last night instead. He adds that Minhui refused a date today, so she must already belong to Junpeng. Yuan pulls up his bank balance and decides a trip home tomorrow is worth the ride. At his parents' place, his uncle sprawls across the sofa and greets him first. Yuan walks into the living room and gives the man a short, polite hello. He waits by the bedroom door while his dad begs for more time on the money he owes. The uncle leans back into the cushions and demands the full amount inside 2 days. His mom explodes and reminds the uncle who lent him 300,000 for his car wash. Her husband grabs her arm and asks her to go easier on his younger brother. The uncle spreads one hand and hints that outsiders would collect this debt with fists. His mom points across the room and calls the whole Shen family ungrateful wolves. His dad pulls her back and tells her to dig out the gold jewelry and sell it. Golden system windows unfold with a timed task to clear the family debt, and the reward doubles every repayment. Yuan stares up with glowing eyes because he already planned to lighten his dad's load today. His mom carries out a wooden box of jewelry she never had the heart to sell. Yuan freezes at the door, remembering the 2 gold rings he sold in freshman year. He shoves the door open and announces to both parents that he has money. His dad tells him to drop the joke and keep his pocket cash for the canteen card. Yuan lifts one finger and tells him to listen for the sound of money arriving. The phone pings and both parents scream at the 200,000 on the screen. Yuan rubs his neck and blames an old friend who parked his allowance in BT coins. His dad throws a thumbs up and calls him the rescue their household needed. His mom marches at the uncle, declares the debt cleared, and orders him out. The uncle clutches his phone and stammers a confused question at his sister-in-law. She screams that he clearly cannot understand human speech and repeats the word scram. The uncle bolts down the narrow alley with his bag tucked under one arm. He wonders how a household owing nearly 100 million cleared his loan this fast. The man regrets showing up at all since he burned the relatives he may need later. The system confirms the goal, and 2 bank alerts push the balance past 2 million. Yuan reads both alerts and works out that his own cash has passed 1 million. He narrows his eyes and admits the family debt is still nowhere near cleared. Behind his parents in the doorway, he decides the smart move is turning capital into more money. Yuan turns and offers his dad another 200,000 if anything is urgent. His mom waves the offer away and her husband immediately shouts for her to wait. His dad coughs into his fist and asks the kid for 50,000 for himself. Yuan shuts his eyes and agrees that this is exactly how it should work. A younger Yuan stands with his backpack begging that same newspaper reader for cash. Back on campus, Yuan meets his teacher on the stairs and says she is home early. She answers that her afternoon classes were canceled and her evening is empty. Yuan leans in and offers to buy her dinner tonight to pay back her last treat. Sweat runs down her cheek, 2 pink crosses flash, and she calls out a name. Li Meng, the teacher's sister, stares him down from the top of the steps. Yuan freezes mid-step and admits he cannot afford to tangle with this sister. Both women line up shoulder to shoulder while Li Meng keeps glaring at him. He backs away, invents an errand at school, and pushes dinner to another day. Li Meng snorts that the kid obviously arrived with ulterior motives tonight. In a red car, a woman in a yellow dress sips her drink while a hand rests on her leg. Yuan checks his phone and decides the car credits deserve to be spent today. A chat window opens, he invites Manhwa along, and she answers that she is free. In her dorm, her roommate teases her about picking a car and skipping curfew together. Manhwa turns red and insists that the two of them are not even together yet. The roommate calls Yuan a golden turtle son-in-law and a handsome bargain. She grabs at Manhwa, who yelps that the whole thing is getting annoying. An hour later at the dealership, a salesman walks over and asks which model they want. The man stops short and blurts her name, since he knows Manhwa from high school. She calls him Senior Chin and remembers that he once chased her back in high school. Chin steps around her and looks the quiet guy beside her up and down. Yuan introduces himself as her classmate, and Chin asks which model interests him. Yuan says he only wants information, and Chin waves him toward the display cars. Chin smirks to himself and lets the pair wander off across the showroom floor. He quotes 600,000 for the M9 and laughs at the kid's plain clothes. Inside his head, models drape over a white sedan while he brags about his sales record. Chin asks Manhwa to catch up over dinner, and she says her evening is taken. Yuan rolls down the window of a display car and asks for a test drive. Chin's face darkens, then he claims the boss drove the test car out today. Yuan stays in the driver's seat and says he saw the M9 parked at the entrance. He walks straight to the reception screen and asks for a different salesperson. A woman greets him from the side with one soft hello before he even turns. Chen Na introduces herself as the sales consultant and asks how she can help. Yuan looks straight at her, and whatever he meant to ask about the M9 leaves his head. A co-worker folds his arms and asks Chin why he passed his own client to Chen Na. Chin struts past the display cars and calls the kid a broke show-off who never buys. Chen Na drives Yuan down the highway and walks him through the lidar and the self-driving mode. Yuan watches her from the passenger seat and decides she looks every bit as good as Manhwa. His head jumps to her climbing into his lap, thanks to those sales rep news stories. She asks about his budget, and Yuan asks if the M9 is in stock today. Chen Na freezes, since buyers normally circle back 3 times before spending a cent. She checks her tablet and offers a returned unit from another branch within a week. Chen Na smiles and asks for a 50,000 deposit while she prints the contract. She walks back through the office in heels while a coworker leans over the partition. Chen Na sits down and tells the whole floor that the kid bought it. Chin plants his hands on his hips and swears the guy will vanish at payment time. From her chair, Chen Na mentions that Mr. Shen already paid, and he paid in full. The other salesmen round on Chin and call him a dumbass for losing that commission. Outside, Chen Na hands over her contact and offers Yuan a ride to his next stop. Minhui grabs his arm before he can answer, so Yuan says they will take a taxi. Chen Na covers her mouth because her customer service routine just annoyed the girlfriend. On the street, Minhui grunts at him, and Yuan asks if she wants to go eat. He asks straight out if she is jealous, and Minhui says no. Yuan grins and tells her that her face says otherwise since it was only business. Minhui fires back that he scrolled the woman's social media for ages. Yuan laughs it off as a habit with every new contact, and she bans it. Inside her head, Minhui admits nothing is official yet, and money will pull other women in. A little devil grin creeps in while Yuan promises to behave and offers her a gift at the mall. Minhui reminds him about the 2 bags he already bought yesterday. Yuan tells her 7 bags fit a 7-day week, so she never repeats one. Yuan smiles to himself because the triple cashback pays him more than he spends. At the restaurant, he asks whether she wants her drink cold or hot today. Minhui goes red and reads that question as a check on her period, then picks cold. Yuan wonders where her mind went, then counts 2 dry months since his ex wanting and lets it run. 3 hours later, a watch and a bracelet ride on her wrist, and her favorability hits 81. Minhui counts nearly 140,000 spent on her in 2 days. A bank alert drops 252,000 into his account, so the deposit money is already back. Yuan works out that the car still leaves him over 1.6 million, then asks her to skip the dorm tonight. Minhui tilts her chin up and answers with one quiet hum. Half an hour later, Yuan stands under the shower in room 808 of the Grand Rich Hotel. On the bed, Minhui stares at a text from her roommate Chen Ling asking where she is. Yuan steps out in a towel, dries his hair, and asks if she is ready. Minhui apologizes to that roommate in her head since the gifts got the better of her. She types back that a relative is hosting her tonight, then admits she has not showered. Yuan pulls her in and tells her he likes her natural scent anyway. She says his name once and her hand slips into his on the sheets. Minhui asks him to be gentle while he leans over her. Half an hour later, she decides Chen Ling was right, because none of it was scary. Yuan lies back amazed and wrecked, and blames 2 months without exercise for his state. Minhui climbs onto his chest and asks him to go again. Yuan sweats through his grin and begs for a short rest first. Minhui strokes his cheek and says, no, she wants it right now. Yuan wakes up in the dorm and the system pays cash back on debt too. His bank alerts show he still owes 100,000 to Yu Hang, his childhood friend. A roommate leans over with a toothbrush and asks where he slept last night. The class group chat is blowing up over a classmate who ordered a car to show off. Yuan skips that dinner since Yu Hang has invited him out for food in a club. The system throws him a mission because a perfect life also needs a career. $1 million has to go into a business in 1 week, and the reward doubles his income back as cash. He remembers Yu Hang is renovating the Qing bar and texts that daddy will show up tonight. In the private room, Guangyao lounges with a girl on his lap and whines that he is starving. Zhenggang and Haijie, 2 more of the crew, ask if all the important brothers are here. Yu Hang waves at the fruit plates and promises Shen Yuan will arrive any moment. Guangyao sneers that the guy is bankrupt, so Yu Hang reminds him they grew up together. The girl pouts that men keep touching her, and Guangyao asks his cousin where the girlfriend is. Haijie answers that she got stuck in traffic and needs 10 more minutes. Guangyao thinks his cousin's family has always been a subordinate of his own. In his head, he puts her in a tight skirt, and he still likes his chances. Yuan pushes the door open in a worn sweater and apologizes for the wait. Yu Hang bumps his shoulder and tells him to report the driver who detoured. Guangyao smirks that everyone else drove a luxury car while Yuan took a rideshare. Chen Na walks in through the same door and blames rush hour for being late. Haiji raises his hand and introduces her as his girlfriend, who sells cars. Chen Na spots Yuan and recognizes the customer who picked up a car yesterday. He never says hello, so she plays along and walks past like they never met. 40 minutes later, Yu Hang stands with his glass and asks who wants in on his bar. He puts the bill at 2.4 million and offers 30% for 700,000. Guangyao swirls his wine and decides the father cut Yuhang off after the last flops. Zhenggang chews his knuckle and works out that saving that much would take 2 years. The couch goes quiet and nobody wants to be the first idiot to speak. Yuhang looks at friends who eat his food free and borrow from him without blinking. His grin drops and he asks whether everyone went mute after dinner. Guangyao offers to pool a few tens of thousands as a loan instead. Heiji agrees that buying in Midway would be unfair to Yuhang. Another voice brings up the hot pot restaurant and the KTV that both flopped. Yuhang lowers his head and says he wanted partners, not a pile of debt. His hand comes down flat on the table and he tells them to forget it. Guangyao lifts his glass and says shares are boring, so everyone should drink. Yuhang says he will head home while Yuan remembers how these faces looked when his family fell. Yuan raises his chin and cuts in, saying he will put some money in. Yuhang stops halfway across the room and gets out one confused sound. Guangyao laughs and tells him to quit joking since they know him too well. Zhenggang pats his shoulder and suggests he wash his face and sober up. Heiji lectures him about doing things within his own ability. Guangyao offers to cover his taxi fare, which is charity dressed as an insult. Chen Na remembers the 600,000 car he ordered from her yesterday. She twists her hands, worried that an outsider speaking up would cause him trouble. Yuan tilts his head up and tells Yuhang the 700,000 is transferred. Yuhang's phone buzzes and he only manages half of Yuan's name. The bank message confirms 700,000 received at 7:42. Someone asks what happened, so Yuhang turns the screen toward Guangyao. Guangyao counts the zeros out loud and screams that the number is real. Chen Na glances back at the guy this whole room just called broke. A guest in a gray suit asks Mr. Lin what that text message actually says. Lin tells his cousin, the guy who threw this party, that his uncle and aunt want him home. The host glares at his cousin's back and fumes that Yuan stole the whole spotlight tonight. A guy in a cap leans over another guest and asks to read the message himself. That one is already at the door, mumbling about a problem at home. A third guest waves from the couches and promises to catch up next time. The host bends over the table and begs somebody to explain why the room is emptying. Outside, Chen Na tells her boyfriend Haiji that Yuan bought an M9 from her yesterday and paid in full. Haiji grabs her wrist, so she offers him the purchase contract sitting on her phone. He starts lecturing her for not reporting a rich young man to him sooner. Chen Na throws his hand off and tells him never to contact her again. Back on the couches, Yuhang drapes an arm over Yuan and pours the wine, because that party crowd is only good for fun. Yuhang grins and starts pitching the bar plan to his new shareholder. Yuan stretches both arms up and says the place still needs a store manager. At home that night, Chen Na reads his message about meeting up over the car. Yuan sends her a tea room address since one girl paying cash back will never fill his system. Next day, she waits alone at a sunlit table, and this lunch is about to go very wrong. Chen Na turns her water glass and wonders whether she showed up early. 3 men from her dealership walk in, and one of them recognizes the store uniform. Zeng, the general manager of that dealership, sends the other 2 off to eat without him. Out in the corridor, the pair argue about whether she would ever say yes. One of them smirks and starts a sentence he never finishes. They settle on the idea that she staged this coincidence to be found here. Zeng walks up to her table and asks to sit down with her. Chen Na says a friend is coming, and he answers that he is her superior anyway. She tells him to keep his distance since he already has a family at home. The manager smiles wider and offers to simply get a divorce. Outside the glass, Haiji watches them and decides she dumped him for somebody else. His palm slaps the window while he asks how he lost to this fat pig. Haiji storms in and screams that the 2 of them are having an affair. Chen Na freezes at the table, and the manager asks the stranger who he even is. Haiji swings first, and his fist lands square on the manager's jaw. The manager grabs the jacket and comes back with a fist of his own. Yuan walks in with his hood up and recognizes Haiji in the middle of it. Without that manager as a scapegoat, Yuan would be the one on the floor right now. Yuan's hand closes around Chen Na's fingers. He pulls her toward the exit and tells her to ignore the whole circus. In her car, she admits she only dated Haiji for about 2 weeks. Chen Na adds that the manager who just took those punches is her own boss. Changing stores means losing every client she built up over the years. They roll past a flower shop while she keeps chewing on it. She admits she is tired of sales and dreams about a tiny coffee shop. Yuan asks about an investor since 300,000 of his money is still free. She laughs it off and says she would quit on the spot for a deal like that. He tells her to hand in the resignation tomorrow because that money is hers. Her hand locks up on the gear stick and stops moving. Chen-na turns to him with her favorability at 64 and one stunned ah. Yuan smiles at his brand new cash cow, and the coffee shop has not even opened yet. Chen-na, the saleswoman driving him home, asks if he is joking about all this. Yuan says he is dead serious and offers her $12,000 a month at his cafe. Her eyes go wide behind the glasses while she adds up $300,000 a year. Chen-na pictures herself shrunk into a birdcage that he dangles from one finger. The conditions tempt her, but she refuses to be a kept canary and a third wheel. Yuan tells her the cafe is only a pilot for a whole chain, so they stay boss and employee. She goes quiet behind the wheel and promises to think the offer over. His phone lights up with Hui Min, his girlfriend, asking him out for a cold drink. Yuan pushes open room 808 at the Grand Magnate Hotel. Hui Min jumps onto his back and tells him how much she missed him. She pulls away fast because he smells like another woman. Yuan sniffs his own sleeve and blames the perfume he picked up in Chen-na's car. Hui Min shoves him toward the wall and demands to know who he has been seeing. He hugs her and swears the dealership salesgirls just soak the whole place in perfume. She buys the excuse and only asks him to warn her before the next outing. Yuan agrees because his system pays for spending on more than one money tree. Hui Min heads for the shower and he catches her arm and tells her later. He pulls her back in while she protests that she is not washed yet. Her red top ends up crumpled on the hotel carpet. Yuan tells her he likes the smell of not showering. She lands on the bed and says she likes his smell too. Yuan slides his hand down to the pleats of her skirt. She kisses him and admits that she really likes him. 2 hours later, she still wants more and her affinity number climbs to 90. The system reports the task complete and drops 3 rewards on him at once. Yuan walks out in a towel while the light wraps around his shoulders. The $1,000,000 lottery ticket comes first, which finally explains his money to his family. The last reward is a skill called Ruthless Power, and he warns Hui Min about it. He steps into the hallway in slippers and feels the whole thing switch on. Yuan grabs his own face because the surge parks itself between his legs. He runs the numbers on Chen-na and Li Xiao, 2 names stuck just past 60. Yuan smirks, since 90 can wait while he tests what the system handed him. Hui Min sits up in the sheets and asks why he never went to shower. He takes her hand and tells her he changed his mind about that. Yuan pins her leg down, and she asks why he feels so different now. Elsewhere, Chen-na calls about the guy funding her store and gifting her a car. Her friend Qian asks straight away whether she walked into a scam. Chen-na says she has met him a few times and that the kid is only 21. Qian sits up in bed and wants to know if he is handsome. Chen-na admits he is a little handsome, and her friend starts campaigning hard. At the window, she worries that he is 5 or 6 years younger than her. Chen-na tells the mirror the real problem because he already has a girlfriend. Qian answers that a girlfriend is not a wife, so take him anyway. Chen-na nearly drops the phone when she hears that. Qian offers to take the little millionaire off her hands instead. Chen-na hangs up and lets the phone rest against her hip. She stares out at the city lights and says his name to nobody. Hui Min lies back in the hotel bed and asks Yuan why he feels different tonight. She hides under the sheet because 40 minutes in, they have already gone twice. Yuan leans over her with a grin and asks if she likes this new version of him. She wants to know if he can still go, so he tells the dance student to lead. Hui Min turns red and says she has no clue how to run things from up there. Yuan tells her practice is the only teacher and pulls her onto his chest. They kiss hard, and she still finds the air to call him evil. Next morning, Yuan stretches across the bed with no classes waiting for him. He grabs his phone and the lottery ticket the system told him to buy. Every number matches the draw, and the prize sits at 6.8 million. Yuan kicks the blanket away because his parents have been broke since the bankruptcy. He bursts through the front door of the family flat and yells for his mom. His mom, hands on her hips, tells him to stop shouting at the neighbors. Yuan drags his dad out by the arm while the old man asks what he broke this time. He holds up the ticket and announces that the family is rich again. Both parents sit down and ask if school pressure finally cracked their son. Yuan tells his dad to actually read the numbers before saying another word. His dad tears his glasses off and screams for his wife that the jackpot is real. Mom grabs his shoulder while dad shouts the amount one more time. Yuan does the math out loud and taxes still leave over 5 million clean. He rubs his head and floats the idea of starting a business before graduation. His dad approves, though he wants a chunk parked aside as a safety net. Yuan says he only needs 1 million and the rest belongs to the family. Mom agrees on the spot, and both parents tell him they are behind him. Across town, Chen Na's boss, the store manager, shows off the bruises on his face. Chen Na answers that she dumped that guy ages ago and owes him nothing. The manager blames her for the beating and plans to use it as leverage. She points out that she warned him about her date before he sat down. His grin goes dark, and he suspends her customer service duties for the month. Chen Na fires back that she got permission for that afternoon off. The manager laughs and says he runs this store, so he calls every shot. Losing customers means losing commission, and her base pay barely covers rent. She tells him the job is trivial and offers to quit right there. He shoots up from the desk, points at her, and tells her to think it over. Chen Na thinks of Yuan, the college kid who stayed calm in that whole lounge. She walks out of the office and repeats that she is done thinking. Half an hour later, Yuan texts her congratulations and tells her to scout locations. Yuan then knocks at an office door on campus and calls out for Professor Lee. Professor Lee, his teacher, is hauling boxes alone because the monitor is on leave. Yuan says his morning is free and asks if all of this really has to move. She wipes her forehead and admits the desk and filing cabinet beat her. The professor stretches for the books stacked on top of the cabinet. Her heels lift off the tile, and the top shelf stays out of reach. His hand slides past hers toward the same stack of books. Yuan presses in behind her and offers to bring the pile down for her. Her face goes red, since this time they are standing far closer than before. Yuan pulls the books down without blinking, and she wonders if he actually wants her. The teacher leans back with her face burning and asks Yuan if they are finally done. Yuan holds up the stack of files, grins, and tells her the paperwork is finished. Two students shove the door open and shout that they came to help carry boxes. Both of them stare across the storeroom and wonder why their teacher looks so red. Someone tells the boys to move the filing cabinet into the office next door first. The teacher covers her face, relieved that the boys walked in a few seconds too late. Her heart hammers while she scolds herself for finding that little moment exciting. She walks off with a favorability number of 71 floating over her head. Yuan rubs his chin, blames her perky hips for the whole thing, and plans more visits. Saturday arrives, and a glass cafe sits 800 meters south of the school gate. Two girls at a corner table praise Peng, a classmate who paid full cash for his car. Peng smirks, still sour that a girl turned him down despite all his money. The girls ask what family could look down on that, since workers save years for it. Peng chokes on his cup when he spots a woman sitting across the terrace. Chen Na, the manager Yuan just hired, waits by the railing in black with a yellow bow. One girl points at a car parking itself in the lot and asks what model it is. Peng glances down and names it as the far ahead M9. Yuan steps out of that exact car in a plain brown top. Peng and the girls ask how a bankrupt family affords a ride like that. Chen Na waves him over, and Ping whips around at the sound of that name. Peng howls in the background because the beauty is clearly waiting for Yuan. Chen Na tells Yuan the shop owner is on her way, then asks how the car drives. Yuan sips juice through a straw and says it is not bad. One girl leans over and says those two look far too close for a recent breakup. The worst part for Peng is still coming. A hand with a jade bangle and a gold wedding ring settles onto the table. Miss Lin, the coffee shop owner, apologizes for the delay because she was collecting her kid. She shakes Yuan's hand and calls him young, and he says they are the same age. Miss Lin explains that her family situation forces her to transfer the shop for $300,000. Yuan runs the numbers, then offers $250,000 with no haggling. Miss Lin wanted $270,000, decides to accept, and asks to sign the papers today. Yuan agrees and promises the money the moment the agreement is signed. Miss Lin snaps her fingers and calls the waitress over to meet her new owner. The waitress steps up with her tray and greets him as her boss. Yuan hands everything to Chen Na and says she runs the place from now on. The two girls gasp that he just bought a whole shop for the woman beside him. Peng turns pale, sweat crawling down his temple, and manages nothing but silence. Chen Na blinks, caught off guard by how casually he handed her a business. A phone buzzes across the table with a call already on the screen. Miss Lin excuses herself from the table and steps aside to answer it. Chen Na tells Yuan that Miss Lin is married to her old boss at the dealership. Yuan bites his straw, disgusted that the husband preys on his own staff. Chen Na still keeps the chat records and asks whether Miss Lin deserves the truth. Yuan sets his cup down and tells her that warning the woman is a bad move. He explains that a leak points straight back at her, so he will arrange the fall himself. Chen Na smiles and thanks him for taking the whole mess off her plate. Yuan shows his phone and says he sent her 50,000 salary plus startup cash. The system reports the million fully invested and upgrades him to beginner investor. A fresh task hands him 10 million and a mystery industry, and he wants it immediately. Miss Lin returns, confirms the payment, and offers her hand before leaving. Yuan shakes it and notes how soft a married woman's fingers feel. Yuan pictures himself pulling her in close with white flowers blooming around them. Yuan smiles and tells Miss Lin they will definitely meet again, and he means every word. Yuan takes Chen Na, his new business partner, to a tea room and calls it a partnership dinner. She kneels across the low table in that black suit, and he forgets the menu completely. Yuan grins to himself because any breathing man would react the same way. He pats the mat and asks her closer, thinking about the 300,000 he sank into the cafe. Chen Na blushes and wonders why a man would fund a cafe that barely breaks even. He slides his hand onto her waist and she decides this is all she can offer back. Yuan pulls her against his chest and she warns him the waiter is about to walk in. He keeps going anyway and jokes that the kitchen here is never that fast. 10 minutes later, a server calls through the door and Chen Na panics. Both of them snap back into a polite kneel, and Yuan calmly tells the staff to come in. He holds out his chopsticks with the house specialty, and she admits he is handsome. Chen Na studies his smile and thinks his one flaw is being such a shameless rascal. She reminds herself he already has a girl at his side, then drops the whole thought. 40 minutes later, the hostess rings up 2652, and the system triples that back to Yuan. He scans the code while Chen Na works out that one dinner equals a car commission. Out on the street, she wants to reach the cafe tonight and learn the books from Xiaoqiu, who runs it. Yuan says 9 o'clock is closing time, so she asks him to drive her home again. At the car, he claims he is thirsty and asks to come upstairs for a glass of water. Chen Na stalls because the restaurant already pushed past her limit for one day. Yuan tilts his head and asks if another man is waiting at her place. She insists her ex is long gone, so he asks what is wrong with water. He leans in with a grin and offers to stay the night if she wants that too. Her answer is a flat refusal, delivered with a very red face. 2 seconds inside the door, he has her pinned against the counter. She gasps and asks what happened to the water plan. Yuan tells her this is water, just not the kind she was picturing. Downstairs, a car parks, and the driver is planning how to win Chen Na back. Her ex walks up with red roses since her window is dark, and he assumes she is out. He reaches her door, hears her voice through it, and his face drops. The roses shake in his fist while he hammers the door and yells for the man inside. Yuan recognizes the ex who dumped her and wonders why the guy even cares. Chen Na hears the knocking, and Yuan tells her the noise comes from the neighbors. He carries her off her feet while she begs him to go gentle. The roses lie abandoned on the corridor tiles with petals scattered around them. Her ex sinks down next to them, sniffling, and reminds himself to mention protection. An hour later, Chen Na sits up confused, and Yuan pulls her straight back down. The stamina skill from the system means he simply does not run out of gas. Next morning, he wakes up to the smell of toasted bread and fried eggs. Chen Na stands at the stove in his shirt and a strawberry apron. Yuan watches from the bed and decides this warmth beats any hotel room. The system drops a time task and orders him to buy her a big apartment within a day. Reward one doubles whatever he pays, so he is already picturing a pool and a mansion. Chen Na looks back from the pan and tells him breakfast will be ready in 2 minutes. Yuan walks over shirtless and asks whether breakfast is the only thing on offer. He wraps her up at the stove, and she reminds him it is broad daylight. Then he offers to go buy her a house this morning, and the spatula hits the floor. Chen Na fires back that he already dropped 300,000 on the cafe, and houses here start at $1 million. Yuan hugs her from behind in the kitchen and asks why she went quiet on him. He tells her to stop saving money for him and to pick any unit over 120 square meters. He grips her cheeks and claims the thin walls let both neighbors hear last night, and she insists it was not all her fault. Yuan admits he shares the blame, then adds that her yelling was the loud part. Chen Na calls him annoying with his fingers still resting on her throat. She remembers 2 friends visiting the cafe at 10:30, and he warns that paperwork takes longer than buying vegetables. Chen Na texts Chiang Qian to move the meetup to tonight, and the reply says the girls are nearly there. Inside a moving car, Chiang Qian tells the driver that Chen Na just bailed on them. The driver is Liu Menglu, a golden personal trainer, and she wants to know the reason. Qian Qian figures the cafe story got exaggerated, since no man hands over 300,000 that easily. Menglu argues Chen Na never brags, while privately deciding this rich stranger should have been hers. Qian Qian gives in and lifts her phone to ask the question. The answer says the guy is taking her to buy a house and a heel stamps the pedal flat. The car rips down the avenue while a stunned what explodes inside it. Menglu's eyes narrow in the mirror as she runs the math. Because a tiny 40-meter flat costs 500,000, she decides she absolutely must meet him and rates her own charm above Chen Na's. Menglu offers to help pick the unit, thinking her own sisters deserve this payday more. Qian types out the second question and asks which development they picked. They park at Songhu Tiandi, where the cheapest apartment clears $1 million. Qian throws an arm in the air and shouts that it has been way too long. She grabs Chen Na by the hand, and Chen Na says she missed them too. Chen Na introduces Yuan and names Qian, her Ferrari-selling friend. The friends pose together while Menglu tells Yuan his frame could carry more muscle. Menglu leans in, shocked that a sponsor this rich looks about 25. Yuan grins and says he could never concentrate inside her gym. Menglu takes that flirting as proof the two of them are not a real couple. The bruises on Chen Na's knees give last night away, and the friends decide that bought the house. Qian pitches him a Ferrari for his next car, and Yuan promises to call. Two hearts pop up at 68 and 67 5 minutes after the introductions. Yuan is fine with it because every woman above 60 is another money tree. The four of them cross the plaza toward the sales center. A guy in the crowd grumbles about the show-off dragging 3 beauties along. The agent offers buildings 3 and 9 at around 15,000 a meter. Yuan skips the model entirely and says his budget is 3 million. She waves the group toward the negotiation room. Menglu and Qian freeze since nobody drops 3 million casually. Menglu strides after him, certain this sponsor is worth clinging to. Inside, the agent pitches a south-facing unit of 165 meters at 2,984,000. Chen Na tugs his sleeve and whispers that the price is far too expensive. Yuan tells her not to skimp because a bigger house is nicer to live in. Her friends watch her push the money away and rank him a legendary catch. Yuan haggles anyway, calling the agent gorgeous and asking for her real discount. She offers a deeper cut today, and he asks for 2 parking spaces instead. Menglu stretches her arms overhead and decides she must win this man over. Yuan catches the pose past Chen Na's shoulder and wonders what the trainer is planning. Menglu slides her strap down while everyone else studies the floor plan. Yuan's eyes lock on, and he admits she looks incredible up close. For 1 second, he pictures exactly how that would go. Then he drags himself back to the contract, and the trainer is nowhere near done with him. The agent totals the house at 2.98 million, and Yuan signs without blinking. Menglu and her friend Qian freeze, since only Chen Na's name is on that contract. His phone buzzes with a 14.9 million deposit and a balance past 15 million. The system adds reward too, a bamboo lake villa he collects tomorrow at 9. The agent fixes her hair, amazed he paid in full for a woman he isn't dating. She asks for his contact, so Yuan holds up his QR code to scan. Menglu glares and calls the agent a vixen out to snatch her cake. 2 phones beep over the paperwork, and the agent leaves with his number. Menglu shoots up at lightning speed, suddenly shopping for an apartment too. She offers her own code and help with any health needs he might have. Yuan pats Chen Na's head, says he is busy, and leaves the besties to lunch. Menglu cannot believe he skipped a free meal with her in the room. Qian demands a treat from the girl who is worth 3 million now. Menglu forces out a bright smile, though her afternoon is far from over. Later, Yuan carries his tray through the canteen and spots his counselor alone. Students whisper by the tables while her phone rings beside her lunch. On the call, she promises a report by tomorrow and names schools already doing it. Then she apologizes to Secretary Liu and refuses to meet tomorrow night. Yuan asks what is wrong, and she describes a startup base for students. He repeats those words, so she lists the funding and venues waiting. Her spoon stops as she admits the budget fell short of what they need. Yuan asks what the school offers companies, and she answers with graduates. He calls that weak against top universities, and she agrees nobody will invest. In her head, a bald executive is already pouring drinks in a private room. The counselor hates that a lecturer must drink with businessmen for money. Yuan runs the numbers, since the base needs 33% to succeed and the school hits 20%. She catches his interest and assumes her student wants a business of his own. The idea is good, she warns, but a cold project will be brutal to launch. The system offers prestige, one lottery chance per 500 points earned. Yuan grins because the investor picks who gets funded and founders can be pretty. He asks who evaluates the students, the investor, or the school. In theory, the school does, she says, though a desperate school will negotiate. She tells him to stop joking since his family went bankrupt last year. Yuan turns his phone around and tells her to count the zeros. Her hand flies to her mouth as she counts 9 digits. He credits coins and foreign exchange from his family's better days. The counselor sweats, stuck on her own student being a multimillionaire. Yuan smiles across the trays and starts a sentence with counselor, why don't you? He leans in, asks her to be with him, and promises travel and luxury. She is already on a beach in her head, holding his hand in the surf. Blushing, she warns him off the nonsense and asks if he truly wants to invest. Yuan keeps a straight face and says he wants to build up his alma mater. Her imagination jumps to a bed and a shirtless version of him. She fans her face and scolds herself for thinking that about a student. Her favorability ticks to 67 as she flees, promising to raise it with the secretary. At 4, Chen Na sends a photo of the coffee she made for him. Yuan says her coffee needs training, though the apron in that photo sells it. Across campus, a friend tells Xiaoyi, his classmate, to forget the broke rich kid. Xiaoyi fires back at her 2 friends about their dates with Haibao, a guy from his dorm. Her friends argue that a free meal beats paying for everything next to Yuan. One of them hushes the group because Yuan is coming down the stairs. They watch him pass and decide he must be off to a restaurant shift. The same friend offers to ask outright, while Xiaoyi calls that rude between classmates. The tall one poses and sweetly asks which store he works at so they can support him. Yuan reads the mockery and invites all 3 over for free coffee. At the cafe, Chen Na stands with Menglu, and the pair stop the room cold. The 3 classmates gape, arguing whether that figure is even real. Chen Na greets him while Menglu locks onto his arm and asks about the classmates. Yuan strolls into the cafe with the 3 classmates and says they wanted coffee. He tells Xiaoqiu, the barista, to take their orders because this round is on him. Xiaoqiu seats the girls and points at the QR code on the table, calling Yuan boss. 2 of them freeze at that word since a boss owns the shop instead of mopping it. The tall one whispers that ordering anything here would be a very bad idea. Xiaoyi agrees, and they decide a rich guy faking a part-time job is shameless. Menglu asks why his classmates ran off, and Yuan blames the 2 fairies beside him. She admits they are beautiful, then warns him to stop daydreaming and work harder. Chen Na carries his coffee over and apologizes for guessing half sweet on the sugar. Yuan says any sugar works if she made it, and Menglu laughs at the cheesy line. Still, she props her chin up and admits cheesy hits different from a rich guy. Menglu wants his height and weight for a BMI check, and he gives 182 and 72 kilos. She catches the part about losing weight lately and asks him for the reason. Yuan blames energy expenditure, and Chen Na turns red and begs him to stop. Menglu leans in and says his body fat is too low by 10 kilos of muscle. Her phone comes out with a gym page, and Yuan reads it as a sales pitch. She giggles about her end-of-month quota and swears she will not let him down. Past 4 already, Menglu grabs her things because her own class starts at 5. She throws him a wink, and Yuan calls her bold and swears he will catch her one day. He leans over the counter, takes Chen Na by the hand, and offers a workout upstairs. Yuan lifts her chin, calls it extra training, and she warns that Xiaoqiu is still here. Their mouths meet anyway, and Chen Na melts against his shoulder. Downstairs, Xiaoqiu looks up from her tray at the noise and asks what is happening. Her eyes stretch wide, her face burns, and one word slips out of her, boss. Xiaoqiu walks to the entrance and hangs the closed sign on the glass door. Menglu comes running back for her forgotten bag and demands the door be opened. Xiaoqiu goes red behind the glass and stalls, which makes Menglu push harder. Inside, the moans reach her, and Menglu wonders who is this lively in broad daylight. 10 minutes later, she picks up her bag, puzzled that a slim guy has that much stamina. She licks her lips and says his name to herself. Menglu shouts a loud goodbye to Xiaoqiu and walks out. Upstairs, Chen Na clings to him, horrified that someone heard every second of it. Yuan decides a good session needs a real audience and plans to charge Menglu next time. Across campus, Secretary Lu, who runs the school, repeats that a student wants to invest. Professor Lee confirms it, and he demands to know whether those funds were verified. She saw the bank balance herself, 10 million, and the number makes him choke. Lou wants proof the money is not his parents' and that the kid may spend it. She says every cent is his to use, so Lou drops the outside partner companies at once. He orders Yuan into his office, and Professor Lee suggests a friendlier approach. Lou grins and refuses because a student from his own school has to be kept humble. At the cafe, the phone lights up with Professor Lee calling, and Yuan asks for a moment. He answers, makes the professor repeat it, and hears the summons to the office. Yuan smirks, because a school that pushes an investor once will push again. On the office speaker, he calls himself busy with other deals, then cuts Lou off mid-shout. Professor Lee stares at the dead call, stunned that a student just hung up on the secretary. Professor Lee stands over his desk while his assistant scrolls through her phone. He fumes that a student dared hang up on him, when campus leaders always show him respect. He grips his head and the assistant tells him to invite Yuan to dinner instead. She lifts her phone and agrees to message him right now. At the cafe, Yuan reads it with Nana, the barista, tucked against his shoulder. Nana straightens up and tells him to go if he is busy, since dinner can happen another day. Yuan thinks she is wonderful for being that considerate, and then his phone starts ringing. He answers and greets Huimin, the girl he has been dating. She asks him to walk the sports field, and he jokes about being offered a cold drink instead. Huimin blushes and admits she is on her period, which explains her missing days. Yuan grabs his jacket anyway because she adds it is not totally impossible. On the track, Huimin jumps into his arms after he insists her health comes first. She kisses his cheek and calls him sweet. Her affection ticks up to 91 and she asks him straight what they are now. Yuan calls that a dangerous question, but figures she likes him enough to hear it. He lifts her off the ground and tells her they are a couple, of course. Their faces press together while she hums, thrilled with the answer. Yuan privately notes the other girls get pet names instead of the girlfriend title. From above, he holds her hand and offers a big weekend gift, a car or a house. Huimin panics at that, insisting bags and makeup would be plenty. He argues a house makes more sense, walks her to the dorm, and plans tomorrow's property pickup. The next morning, a red light holds traffic on the way across town. A video call fills Yuan's screen, and Menglu, his gym coach, asks the skinny guy to train. Yuan drives one-handed and questions the outfit, so she asks if it gave him dirty thoughts. Menglu grins at the gym, reading his tone as family and counting how long he lasts. A redhead walks in waving, and Menglu greets her as Miss Zhou, one of her clients. Zhou asks what has her laughing this early, and Menglu blames a funny friend. They drop into chairs at a table because class has not started yet. Menglu says a friend got a sugar daddy who gifted her a 3 million apartment. Zhou pictures a rich old man with a cigar because her current guy will not spend a dime. Menglu corrects her, saying the man is barely in his 20s. Zhou asks about his looks, and Menglu calls him handsome and tall. Zhou decides the lucky friend must be gorgeous to land somebody like that. Menglu says they are pretty similar, each with her own charm. A message pulls her away, and Menglu hugs her phone after he agrees to pick her up. Zhou notices she looks even happier and asks what the other good news is. Menglu cancels the session with a double refund and names Qingzhou Lake as the reason. Zhou decides the coach stole her friend's man, then admits she would do the same. The trainer blocks her path and reminds Menglu she has a class later. Menglu rolls her eyes at him and walks straight out the door. 10 minutes later, a white SUV pulls up, and the trainer doubts any car wins Menglu over. Zhou tops him, saying the man bought his girlfriend that apartment without blinking. The trainer shouts that 3 million is years of work, and Zhou frowns at the familiar story. The car door swings open for Menglu, and Zhou stares at the driver in shock. Yuan stands there in a white tee, grinning, holding the door like it costs nothing. Zhou breaks into a sweat because the rich young guy in that story is Yuan. Menglu leans into him by the car while Zhou watches her ex become a millionaire. Zhou grabs her own face since she dumped him only 2 weeks ago. Zhou, the ex who dumped Yuan, cries in the gym while the trainer asks what is wrong. Her new man texts her over tonight and she calls him stingy for it. She types back that she is his mother and blocks him, so the guy explodes at his desk. Zhou paces the gym floor, wondering if Yuan would take her back, worried his old flat is cramped. In her head, Yuan already has the coach and 2 women on him, and she asks if joining is too greedy. Menglu, the gym coach, buckles up in his passenger seat and envies a car this big. Yuan drives and agrees that outdoor trips sound great, then names another girl he would take. Menglu lifts a hand and tells him he never plays by the rules. She drags the seatbelt across her chest and asks if wearing it like that is allowed. Yuan looks over grinning and says he wants to play tennis with the coach. She laughs, calls him annoying, and keeps tugging the belt. 30 minutes later, they park at a sales office, and Yuan says he came for his property. The real estate agent Guan Shufang greets him with a house model and offers a tour. Yuan wants the contract signed first, so she leads him past the display models. After the signing, the agent rides in back, sure these two are not a couple. Her eyes keep drifting to Menglu up front, and she wonders how women differ this much. The agent looks down at her own knees and calls herself too average for that game. The car reaches a walled estate with a fountain and a mansion behind the gates. Menglu jumps out and shouts that the place is beautiful. Living here becomes her plan, so winning Yuan over is now the whole job. Guan explains the villa covers 600 meters, 2,000 with the garden, and the system chimes about his first property. 2 windows pop up and the system hands him 20 million just for decorating. Yuan shuts his eyes, smiles, and says he will obey the system through his tears. He asks Guan for designers, and she promises contacts from the best firms in the city. Yuan waves the tour off since the place is unfinished, and Menglu asks to film it for her YUAN page. He agrees as long as his face stays out, and she winks about other women wanting him. Walking back, Yuan asks about her followers, and the number lands near 50,000. He asks if those fans are local, and Menglu teases that he watches her clips in secret. Inside the car, she leans over him and promises a personalized version nobody else sees. Yuan offers her a quiet bar to film, then asks if they are driving back. The city slides past while she asks where else they could go, and he floats basketball. Menglu grabs his hand off the gear stick because a man hurt her friend there yesterday. His white sneaker stamps the brake pedal flat. The stop throws Menglu against her belt, and Yuan asks who stood downstairs listening yesterday. Back on the road, Yuan asks why she will not simply handle it herself. Menglu stares ahead and kills the idea with one lazy refusal. She grips the seatbelt, certain a woman who gives in fast gets treated as cheap. In her fantasy, Yuan kneels shirtless on a leash, fed a scrap of bait each day. The car stops on her street and she invites him to train at her gym. Menglu waves beside his window while Yuan promises a basketball game. Gong, the gym manager, calls the class she skipped a breach of contract. Menglu says a personal matter came up and offers Miss Zhou a double refund. The manager says the refund never stopped the complaint and he cleaned it up himself. She wonders why Zhou came after her and reads his scolding plus advice as a clumsy way to win her. Gong pushes lunch on her, and Menglu says her fitness meals leave no room. She walks off certain the owner values his top trainer too much for that manager to touch. In her mind, Yuan already pins her to the villa balcony and pulls her jacket open. Menglu marches through the gym, refusing to let anyone small stand between her and that lake villa. Secretary Kong, the youth league boss, hears that one student wants to fund the campus startup base. Nobody has contacted Yuan, our main guy, and Kong calls that an oversight. Kong turns down a quick dorm visit because it would look like the school barely cares. Secretary Lu sweats and asks why a whole delegation should chase one undergrad. Over at the dorm, Lao Huang, his roommate, waves a phone and begs for love advice. Yuan scrolls the chat log, where every warm message from Lao Huang gets a one-word reply. 3 years of that, and the guy still swears the progress bar is moving. Yuan hands the phone back and tells him to go bother Old Chow for a plan. Lao Huang refuses, since Old Chow is a virgin and Yuan is the dorm expert. Yuan grins while the guy insists a weekend outing proves she likes him. Lao Huang howls that it is settled now, and Yuan calls these love-struck dogs terrifying. Lao Huang wanders toward the door while a roommate complains about the keyboard noise. Teacher Li, his counselor, stands in the doorway with both secretaries and asks for Yuan. A roommate waves the leaders in as they walk down the corridor. Out on campus, the gossip mutates, with students guessing that his money is dirty. Peng, the rich classmate, tells them the leaders came to hold Yuan for the police. Another student snaps at him to stop inventing stories, and Peng only smirks back. Inside the room, Teacher Li gestures at Yuan while the 2 secretaries wait behind her. Kong introduces himself properly and asks if Yuan has time for dinner tonight. Yuan says tonight works fine, calm as if leaders visit him every week. The three escort him out of the building while students crowd the doorway. In the corridor, one guy gloats that two secretaries came to invite old Shen to dinner. Peng has nothing left to say, and a classmate admits Yuan is not on their level anymore. At the Nanjing restaurant, Kong asks him to lay out his plans and his conditions. Kong leans in, smiling, and tells him to hold nothing back. Yuan wants full control over who gets funded and how much, with no school interference. Secretary Liu explodes that this is not allowed, and Kong tells him to be quiet. Yuan swirls his wine and says profit is the whole point, so their goals already match. He drinks while the system repeats his task of becoming a great magnate. In his head, he already runs a boardroom, and he wants the base to train his own staff. The other half of the mission needs women, and campus is where he finds them. Kong clinks glasses and promises to take the condition to the education office. Dinner runs late, and Liu tells teacher Li to drive him home because he has been drinking. She pulls into traffic and says his new car feels ridiculously spacious. Yuan says he got bored of sedans, and her phone starts ringing on the wheel. Li Meng calls with a changed shift, so nobody is free to help her move. Yuan asks about it, and she explains the lease is expiring for her and her sister. He offers to move them himself, and she says a brand new car should not haul boxes. Yuan calls a car a tool, and she counters that two women own a lot of stuff. She caves with a red face, telling herself he is handsome once you ignore the student part. Behind her hand, she wonders if the handbag means he actually has feelings for her. She turns in her seat and asks whether he remembers that handbag. She leans across the console, reminding him he called it a knockoff. Yuan waves it off, saying it was real and a gift for a teacher he likes. Teacher Li stiffens because she is older and he is still her student. Yuan puts a finger to his lips and tells her to drive instead of rejecting him. Outside her building, she asks if he is staying at his old house tonight. Yuan says the dorm, so she holds out the key and leaves the car with him. Then Yuan kisses her in the dark with a hand at her waist, and she does not pull away. Teacher Li tells Yuan he keeps getting bolder, from her kitchen table to her office. She jabs a finger at him and calls him a bad student, cheeks still red. A caller asks Yuan to unlock the cafeteria for Mrs. Lin, and he says he can handle it. Mrs. Lin, a young mother, waits by the glass doors and apologizes for leaving her son's toys inside. Yuan pulls the door open for her and tells her it is really no trouble. He hits the lights, and she says the kids scattered those toys all over the place. Mrs. Lin stretches up to a high shelf with the bag swinging off her wrist. Yuan gulps hard, tells her to take her time, and asks how old the boy is. She says 3.5. She drops a wine bottle into the bag, and Yuan wonders if she drinks here alone. Yuan asks what is wrong and whether the empty hall is making her nostalgic. Mrs. Lin says she remembered the long nights that kept her company here, and Yuan blames her husband, Zheng Xianyong. Yuan smiles and tells her the door is open whenever she wants to visit. Mrs. Lin says she is not coming back, so Yuan asks her to share a couple of drinks. She turns around and asks if that is really okay, and he asks why it would not be. At the patio table, he pours her a glass and guesses her heartache is family trouble. Yuan tips more wine in and says Chen Na quit her job because of that same husband. Mrs. Lin freezes with her glass, so he explains that Zheng Xianyong kept harassing Chen Na. She sets the glass down and calls that one more item on his list. Mrs. Lin drinks and admits she wants a divorce, with evidence of his affairs already saved. She holds her forehead after 5 years of marriage and worries her boy grows up without a father. Yuan leans back and tells her that staying in a broken marriage hurts the child more. Mrs. Lin studies him and decides he is far more mature than his age suggested. Yuan swirls the wine, and she admits a good-looking guy does lift her mood. She thanks him by name and drinks, and Yuan waves the gratitude off. Yuan stands with his glass and says it is time to go, and she mumbles an okay. Her sandal catches the floorboards and her ankle folds under her. Yuan grabs her from behind, one arm across her stomach, and holds her upright. Mrs. Lin goes red and apologizes, while he only notices how good her hair smells. She kisses his cheek, and Yuan short-circuits trying to work out what that meant. Mrs. Lin takes her bag and walks out the door while he stares after her. Out on the street, she blames the wine, then wonders why that kiss felt so thrilling. His night is only getting started. Yuan calls Nana, says the dorms are locked, and promises he will only cuddle. 20 minutes later, Nana opens up in a nightgown and stares at him. Yuan slumps against the wall and blames a dinner with the school directors. Nana pushes at his chest and orders a shower and sobering tea before anything else. Yuan pulls her close and asks her to just hold him for a minute first. He has her on the bed with a palm on her thigh, so Nana questions his idea of cuddling. She catches his wrist while he swears again that he will not do anything. Yuan admits his excuses keep sliding downhill from a glass of water to a training session. Nana shoves a second blanket at him since cuddling needs no shared one. She falls asleep, and Yuan sits up counting the methods he has left. Yuan fakes a sneeze, and Nana rolls over to ask what is wrong. He complains the air conditioning is freezing, and she offers to adjust it. Yuan slides a hand along her thigh and says one shared blanket fixes the cold. Under that blanket, she says his name, and he grins that nobody is cold anymore. Next morning, Yuan reads her note about washed clothes and breakfast in the steamer and decides she has earned a car. A video call opens on Menglu at the gym, calling the skinny mutt in for training. Yuan holds the phone at arm's length because his coach is also Nana's best friend. Menglu fills the whole screen and asks if he is scared she will eat him. Yuan stares past the camera, wrecked by a woman who flirts with zero filter, and she still expects him at that gym. Yuan is still in bed shirtless when a second call cuts in from his counselor. On the screen, Menglu, his gym coach, waves and lets him take the work call. The counselor says the school board approved his startup proposal, and Yuan immediately asks whether the application form will demand a personal photo. Yuan grins into the phone and explains that a real entrepreneur needs a good physique. The counselor pauses, calls that a new one, then agrees to add it anyway. Yuan sits up in duck print underwear and says everything is fine on his end. She asks if he is free tomorrow morning because she and her sister are moving, and he agrees instantly. Half an hour later, he is dressed and his phone starts buzzing on the bed again. Menglu accuses him of stalling, so Yuan says 2 interior design firms are waiting on him about the villa. She props her chin up at the gym and asks if he needs a little burden along. Yuan pulls his shirt on and lets her come since a pretty face helps when talking designs. Menglu winks and orders him to pick her up at the gym. Out at the car, a stranger asks if Yuan is waiting on a girl too. The man leans on his G-Wagon and lectures him that winning a goddess takes a bigger car. Yuan just says I see and lets the guy keep bragging. Menglu walks out of the building in a white skirt and heels. Fan, the suitor, who was waiting for her, lights up and asks her to go eat. She lifts a hand, calls him Mr. Fan, and says she already texted him about other plans. Fan offers to tag along anyway and pay for the whole lunch. Yuan opens his passenger door and says he minds, because he does not dine with G-Wagon guys. Menglu drops into the seat and tells Yuan to drive. Fan grinds his teeth as Yuan squeezes past him with an "excuse me." A dealership voice says that guy is a premium client whose car cost over 2 million yuan, while Menglu admits Fan chased her for ages and never got a yes. Menglu pouts in the passenger seat and says he is too quiet today. Yuan asks what she wants him to say, and she complains that he is not lively. He explains that men only get excited around exercise, then slides his hand onto her thigh. Menglu jolts upright and screams that he is a perv. Yuan laughs that he only ever meant basketball. She side-eyes him about the cafe day he rushed upstairs with Nana, and he knows she will never drop it. Yuan stretches and asks why she has so much free time lately, and Menglu says she pushed her private training sessions back. She leans in and demands a few good meals as payback. He offers her plenty to eat, gets called a shameless leech, and steers them toward lunch first. That afternoon, the chief designer at Guanting shakes his hand, and Yuan asks her to keep it brief. In the meeting room, she pitches 3 finished layouts and offers to adjust any of them. Menglu loves every option and asks what his budget is. Yuan smiles and says 20 million. The designer's eye goes wide while she does the math on a man burning 30 million total. Menglu tugs at her own top and decides she badly underestimated him. 15 minutes later, Yuan picks the new Chinese style, then warns her he will compare another firm first. The designer takes his contact and invites him to dinner with their general manager tonight. She waves the car off, certain this one client could feed her whole company. Back at the office, she reports that Yuan said yes to dinner. The general manager leans back and refuses to let this whale swim to a rival. He hears Yuan brought a woman who is not his girlfriend, so he orders their ace player Shui Wei to join them. In the car, Menglu fans herself and asks whether the AC is even on. Yuan glances over and says he is not hot at all. She refuses to go back to work and calls herself his shadow for the day. Yuan laughs that his shadows sign up for a full day and night, never just daylight. Menglu covers her face, calls him a perv again, and still refuses to get out of the car. Yuan is behind the wheel while his gym coach, Menglu, takes a call in the passenger seat. Her friend Qian asks whose car she is riding in, guessing some guy with a G-Wagon. Menglu says the ride belongs to Shen Yuan, and Qian nearly drops her phone. Menglu explains they are only going over renovation plans for his new villa today. Qian gasps at the numbers, 10 million for the place and 20 more to remodel it. Qian pictures her two friends walking ahead of her, both of them already living rich. She covers her face and blames the whole thing on the other girls having bigger chests. Evening at the Nanjiang restaurant, a young man greets a business boss he calls Uncle Juan. The older man says he is waiting for a client, and the guy decides that client must matter. A redhead in a flowery dress waits beside Juan. The guy would ask for her number, but Juan is his future father-in-law. Yuan pulls up in the blue car with Menglu, and Juan's assistant introduces him as Mr. Shen. Juan shakes his hand and asks straight away if Menglu is his girlfriend. Yuan waves that idea off fast and calls her a friend, just Miss Liu. Menglu greets Juan back, then silently curses Yuan for denying it so loudly. She is still fuming when Juan waves everyone upstairs to the private room. Juan introduces Su Shuiwei, the design assistant at his company, at the round table. Yuan shakes her hand and notices how soft and nervous the girl is. Juan lifts his wine, says no business tonight, and toasts his guest first. His assistant leans over and tells Shuiwei to stop standing there and toast Mr. Shen. Shuiwei raises her glass and stumbles over the words while her face goes red. Yuan says sure and drinks, which lands badly with the coach beside him. Menglu asks for a drink together, so Yuan covers her glass and reminds her she is driving. Menglu gives in happily because being bossed around feels like being a couple. Shuiwei comes back for a second toast, and Yuan empties his glass again. He then tells the girl that tea is enough for her tonight. Juan backs him up and mentions Shuiwei graduates from Nanjing University this year. Juan tells her to add Yuan on WeChat because knowing a man like him never hurts. Menglu reads it all and decides the old fox is pushing that innocent girl at Yuan. A guy in a green jacket walks over with wine to toast Uncle Juan, and this is where the night turns. Juan calls him thoughtful and introduces his little nephew Lin Guangyao. Juan then tells the nephew to toast Mr. Shen since the two of them are the same age. The nephew glows, already planning to brag about this VIP at his next party. He turns with a big smile and starts on his hello to Mr. Shen. Yuan clinks the glass first, and the nephew recognizes that damn guy from before. His mouth twitches while he asks himself why he has to butter up Shen Yuan. Juan looks between them and asks whether the two of them know each other. Yuan says you could say that, and Juan happily brings up the 20 million villa. The nephew barks a what and wonders if this bumpkin started digging diamonds in Africa. He feels tiny next to a guy who passed him in months, so he decides to kiss up anyway. Their glasses meet, and the nephew forces out congratulations to Mr. Shen now. 3 hours later, Juan asks about a bar or karaoke, and Yuan asks if Coach Liu is coming. Menglu freezes because she has never once stayed up drinking in her life. Yuan sees her hesitate and tells her to skip it and sleep early instead. Menglu panics since fewer rivals at the table means a bigger slice for her. She guesses Juan will get Yuan drunk and push Shuiwei into a motel with him. In her head, Yuan already has the redhead against the wall, one hand over her mouth. The daydream runs on, with the girl flat on the bed and her dress coming loose. Imaginary Yuan promises to take responsibility while the girl squeaks his name. Menglu's eyes go wide because that fast forward would knock her out of the race. Her hand shoots up, she announces she is coming, and the karaoke round has not even started. Mr. Juan pulls Yuan into a private KTV room, and the drinks are already poured. Shuiwei lifts her glass for the toast, and Yuan catches her wrist. He tells the table she is done for the night since she already had too much. Then he tells Shuiwei she never has to attend these parties again. She thanks him quietly. Yuan knows an intern from an ordinary family cannot walk away from Guanting. Menglu leans in and asks why he cares whether she wants to be here. Yuan fires back about Mr. Fan, who probably texted her again tonight. Menglu grumbles that he always names the thing she does not want to hear. Every trick she owns stopped working on him. Shuiwei picks up a mic and stammers, asking which song Mr. Shen wants cued. Yuan tells her to pick anything. Menglu says he is practically shooting lasers at that girl. Yuan claims he looks at Menglu the same way. She corrects him, because with her it is only desire. He calls that her strong point since the ending is identical whatever pulls a man in. He leans to her ear and spells the ending out. It finishes in bed. Her affection ticks up to 68. Menglu prefers that honesty to men who want the same and call it love. She pushes him back and hisses that people are watching. Mr. Yuan waves a mic over since Shuiwei cued another song. The karaoke runs until 11. Outside by the van, Mr. Yuan gushes about making a friend half his age. Then comes the real ask. He pitches Guanting for the renovation and promises elder brother treatment. Yuan answers that he checked 2 firms and at the same price Guanting gets first look. Yuan asks about Shuiwei. Her mentor takes the girl and promises to get her home safe. That leaves Yuan and Menglu by the car, and he offers to book her a ride. She asks where he sleeps tonight. Yuan shrugs and says he will rent a room nearby. He asks if she would rather take him in. Menglu answers with total silence. Behind that silence, she decides waiting longer means a different woman gets him first. Her affection jumps to 75 while she grabs his arm and swears she is a decent girl. Yuan stares at that number because he did nothing all evening to earn it. He pulls out his phone and asks for her address. Menglu announces she is not leaving. He asks where she plans to sleep then. She explodes since she was obvious this whole time. Yuan pats her head and tells her they are switching hotels. In the back seat, she hopes he goes gentler than he was with Nana at the cafe. The driver watches them in his mirror and decides rich people really do live well. At the Junyue, Yuan asks for an executive suite for a month. The clerk quotes 110,000. Menglu nearly chokes and repeats the word month back at him. Yuan slides his card over and requests floor 52, room 1. Triple cashback covers the whole bill. Menglu repeats those 2 numbers and decides this man knows exactly what he is doing. Upstairs, she waves him to the window for the night view, hoping this counts as a real start. Yuan steps up behind her and slides his hands around her waist. He tells Coach Liu she is the only one he sees and asks to start playing. She stalls for a shower. Yuan says later, and then she panics about the open curtains. He explains it is one-way glass on the 52nd floor with no taller building nearby. Pressed against that glass, she calls him terrible anyway, and the two go at it all night. Noon arrives before Yuan opens his eyes, phone still resting in his hand. Menglu sleeps beside him while he worries she got dehydrated. Then she wakes and accuses him of wanting more. She has no tears left. Losing to this scrawny guy tells a fitness coach she needs new training. Yuan swears he held back for her. Menglu begs for sleep and bans the nickname Lulu, since Nana carried it too. He pinches her cheek and offers her any car under 3 million once she wakes up. Menglu shoots upright, clutching the sheet, and wants that sentence repeated word for word. Menglu is still climbing all over Yuan in bed, screaming about the car he just promised her. Yuan runs the numbers in his head. Nana's apartment costs 3 million, so this car has to stay under that. Menglu asks for a Porsche at a little over 2 million, and he tells her that price is fine. She mentions she once talked cars with Nana, and Nana leans toward a Maserati instead. Yuan's head turns fast. Nana likes Maserati. He admits he is thinking about buying Nana a car as well. Menglu adds up the apartment plus the car, calls Nana lucky, then orders herself to stop comparing. Wrapped in a towel, Menglu answers a friend who heard she spent the night at the Grand Hyatt. Her friend, one of her old college crew, is certain Menglu made the first move here. The friend counts their group of 3 and whines that she is the only one still stuck with bad luck. Yuan pulls his shirt on and tells Menglu to pick the car herself and send him the account number. Her affinity reads 86. She blushes into the sheet and agrees. Buttoning up, Yuan notes the value was 82 last night, and the bonus waits at 90. In the car, his phone lights up. Nana has learned everything about coffee and wants him to come taste it. He drives off, says he cannot make it today, then offers to buy her a car too. Nana freezes behind the cafe counter. He just bought a house and she already owns a car. Yuan grins that he loves buying cars for his woman and asks which one she likes. She asks for a plain Class B sedan. He refuses anything under 2 million and calls it her birthday gift. Then he asks her straight whether it would bother her if Menglu ended up in his bed. Nana quietly admits that it would. She cannot change him, so she only asks not to hear about it again. Yuan swears nobody replaces her. In the side mirror, he promises he has never said that line to any other woman. Nana winks into her phone, completely sold on him. Yuan taps the wheel, pleased that his girlfriend keeps trying to save him money. She offers to keep him company tonight, and he repeats the word compensation back at her. Nana giggles and hangs up so he can go handle business. Alone at the wheel, Yuan rubs his hair and wonders how guys juggling this many women avoid getting caught. Across town, his professor drags two heavy boxes down the campus steps by herself. Yuan jogs up the stairs and tells her he came over to help. He lifts the boxes out of her arms and insists on carrying everything. The top box tips open and it is packed with bras and hangers. Yuan's eye goes wide and he mutters that this is bad. Lingerie scatters across the steps and the professor asks whether he likes pink. His brain immediately runs the version where she models the pink set for him. The daydream keeps going through white and mint before he drags himself back to Earth. The professor takes the box off him and tells him to carry the other things instead. She crouches on the pavement and picks the mint bra up by one strap. At the car, her sister loads the trunk and warns them that one trip will not be enough. The sister still does not trust Yuan an inch, and she barely gives him a word. The professor leans across him and tells him to set the GPS for the Dongsheng condominium. On the road, she says her sister acts like that with everyone. Yuan says she was softer than the last two times. Her reflection floats in the window glass while she explains where it started. Her sister loved a formal guy in glasses through a long-distance relationship until she caught him walking into a hotel with another girl. That happened at Christmas. Li Meng was crushed, and she has written off men ever since. Yuan erupts in the driver's seat and calls the guy the scum of society. The professor laughs into her hand and asks whether he counts as a scumbag too. He declares himself the purest romantic on the planet, then asks what she thinks of men. She calls herself neutral, since she never went through what her sister did. Then Yuan asks what she thinks of him, and her heartbeat goes loud enough to hear in the passenger seat. Yuan's professor spins in the passenger seat and asks him to repeat that. Yuan keeps driving with a grin and tells her the whole thing was a joke. She settles back, half hoping he meant it, since then she would not know what to do. At her new rental flat, the boxes fill the kitchen, and she offers him a meal as thanks. Yuan leans in until her face burns, and she asks how else she can pay him back. He kisses her by the counter, and she does not push him off. His hand slides under her shirt, she tells him to stop, and fists hammer the front door. Her sister waits in the corridor, locked out after walking off without her key. The two stay tangled together while the professor says she cannot hold it together. Yuan grips her arms, still grinning, and promises he will help her with that. The door swings open, and her sister asks why her face is red, guessing sunburn. The professor rubs her forehead and claims she only needs a short rest. In her head, she calls Yuan shameless, then mentions the assistant assigned to his project. Yuan says he will message the assistant and leaves before the sister notices more. The sister digs into a book box and asks point blank what she thinks of Yuan. Anyone can see his intentions, the sister says, and the professor admits she is unsure. The sister decides spring fever got her and calls Yuan talented but not trustworthy. The professor asks whether her sister opposes it, and the choice turns out to be hers. Her sister wraps both arms around her from behind and hangs off her shoulders. The professor's eyes go soft while his name runs through her head again. 1 hour later, the cafeteria is packed, and his day gets much messier. Yingzi, the head of the campus radio station, waves him over to her table. Yuan asks if she waited long, and she says she arrived a minute ago. Her voice sounds nothing like the radio, and she explains she plays a character on air. Yuan asks for help outside committee work too, and she agrees on the spot. A big guy in a gray shirt offers a paper bag with her favorite oolong tea. The art drops into chibi mode while he demands to know who this stranger is. Yuan reads that glare as jealousy, and Yingzi refuses the tea because she quit sugar. Zegi, her stubborn admirer, says he walked 5 kilometers and queued for that cup. Students nearby whisper that the radio host and Yuan must be dating. Manhua, a girl he took out twice, calls that impossible, and her friend blames his money. Manhua storms across the hall to watch that girl throw away her dignity. She hooks onto Yuan from behind, and he greets her by her nickname instantly. Yuan explains he was only going over committee business with Yingzi. Manhua presses into his shoulder and asks if he plans to flunk every skipped class. Yingzi calls it none of her business, stands up and says the radio station needs her. Yuan waves her off while Manhua watches the other girl leave the cafeteria. The students behind them call it a drama alert. 2 goddesses over 1 guy. Minhui asks what they were discussing because that lovely voice worries her. Yuan says the Entrepreneurship Center assigned Yingzi to his project. Minhui complains that 2 days apart is too long, but her class is waiting. She leans over his shoulder and orders a cold drink from him for tonight. Minhui waves goodbye, and Yuan calls her insatiable before his phone rings. Coach Liu found the car for just over $2.5 million, and Yuan transfers at once. Coach Liu winks into her phone and throws him a heart with her fingers. She asks about Junyue tonight, since she packed 2 outfits he likes. Yuan pictures all 3 women and remembers he already promised Nana this evening. 3 options face him, and Yuan decides the only fair answer is to take all 3. Li Meng, the younger sister, wants to cook at home, and the counselor agrees to buy the vegetables. The counselor freezes when her sister suggests inviting Yuan over for dinner. Li Meng says a home meal is the polite way to thank a guy who helped them move today. The counselor squints and asks what her sister is actually planning here. Li Meng pictures Yuan sliding up behind her at the kitchen counter with that grin. She laughs it off as helping her sister test him, so the counselor picks up the phone. Yuan reads the invite and moans about an unlucky streak with too many women chasing him. The counselor opens her door in a thin camisole and tells him the food needs a few minutes. Yuan says he will make himself at home while she carries on. He walks in impressed that she fixed up the whole house in a day, then asks where Li Meng is. The counselor answers that her sister is in the shower, which is the worst thing she could admit. She throws both palms up, and Yuan asks why she is nervous when he only came to help. The counselor waves him back toward the living room because dinner is nearly ready. Yuan takes a few more steps and offers to keep her company while she cooks. She says this gap is fine for chatting, and he complains about half a meter of empty space. Yuan hooks both arms around her waist, and she reminds him that her sister is home. He buries his face in her shoulder and says, "Women never shower quickly." Yuan kisses her cheek while she keeps refusing. Then Li Meng shouts that she is done showering. The counselor slams both palms on his chest and he tells her to stop panicking. She warns him about a next time, and Yuan says she already knows how he feels. At the table, Yuan praises her cooking and jokes that a food show should film an episode here. Li Meng shuts down the flattery and asks how many girlfriends he has had. Yuan answers 2, then thinks only 2 of them are public knowledge. Li Meng calls that rich experience and worries her sister has never dated anybody. Yuan almost laughs because the rest of his roster would destroy her completely. He tells them he has a younger sister, and the interrogation rolls on. 10 minutes later, he decides the counselor must have talked him up to Li Meng. Yuan leans back with an innocent face and drags the counselor into the conversation. His slipper slides up her bare calf under the table while everyone keeps eating. She turns bright red and calls him shameless for trying this beside her sister. The counselor grabs an excuse about washing fruit and escapes the table fast. Yuan turns the fruit down, and Li Meng notices her sister acting strange tonight. He says he still has things to do, because another battlefield is waiting for him. After he leaves, Li Meng stretches and tells her sister to test this guy harder. The counselor keeps replaying every time he pulled her in and kissed her. She sits alone over her rice and admits he is far too bold, since they never even confirmed a relationship. Nana, the girl who makes his coffee, asks why he skipped her cafe and rushed to her apartment. Yuan asks about her gray suit and stockings, and she calls tonight formal compensation. Nana steps out in the gray suit and glasses and asks why men love this look. Yuan leans over her shoulder and says she will understand little by little. He lifts her off the floor and kisses her against the wall. An hour and a half later, her favorability score is sitting above 90. The system reports a second woman over 90 and a finished stage mission. His reward screen offers a 5 million car fund and 12 skill exchange cards. Yuan cashes the third reward, a size upgrade, and warns Nana to endure tonight. Nana's eyes roll back and her cry fills the room, and the system has barely started paying out. Nana lies wrecked in the sheets and asks Yuan why he felt so different tonight. Yuan grins back and asks her how exactly, and she just says he isn't the same man. He promises bigger surprises later while she curls against his chest. Yuan counts her wrecked face as a perfect score, then opens his exclusive skill package. 7 beginner skill cards float over the bed, and the hairdressing one baffles him completely. He leans toward combat since a rich guy can still run into a thug one day. Then he pictures his tutor's television dying and himself arriving with a toolbox. In the daydream, he fixes it, and she waits by the counter with a towel ready. She offers to dry his whole body off, and his imagination gets extremely generous. Yuan's eyes go full flame mode. Appliance repair suddenly beats combat. He figures each reward comes out richer and wonders who reaches 90 favorability next. Nana sits up and answers a call from her mom. Her voice cracks and she offers to wire money over right away. Yuan moves closer and asks Nana what happened back home. She hides her face and says her dad drank himself into a stroke. Yuan offers to drive her tonight, but she'd rather leave in the morning. Nana decides she can't bring him home while their relationship stays unofficial. He holds her from behind and tells her to speak up if the hospital bills bite. By morning, she's gone, leaving him a note and a cooked breakfast anyway. His phone rings early, and the caller is Yingzi, the girl running his new office. On video, she asks him to choose desks and chairs, and he leaves the whole call to her taste. Yuan hangs up impressed because her energy alone already earns the job. On campus, a classmate holding a mop asks Yingzi what they should do next. She snaps that he isn't even in student council and should quit trailing her. The classmate stands there stung, 3 years of chasing beaten by a guy from yesterday. Yingzi walks off doing math since 10 million dropped into a losing incubator means real wealth. She pictures herself in an office suit called Secretary Fu by her boss. Yingzi blushes and decides her work skills will keep her beside Yuan. In Nana's hometown, her mom pulls her indoors instead of toward any hospital. Mom admits the lie and frets that Nana turns 27 without a boyfriend. The neighbor auntie presents Chitao, a groom candidate imported from another city. The auntie brags about his company and the house he paid off in cash. Chitao smiles and calls his car nothing fancy, only a Series 5. Nana answers with the flattest not bad in family history while everyone beams. Chitao hands her mom pure gold and shrugs off the 3,000 price tag. The two older women cackle about the filial son-in-law they've found. Nana asks her mom for a private word in the back room. Her mom refuses and calls it rude to keep young Dong waiting outside. They argue until Nana texts Yuan and he answers that he's already off the highway. Her eye goes wide because Yuan is driving straight to her house. Nana warns her mom a friend is arriving and refuses to say man or woman. Outside, the auntie sells Chitao to Nana's dad over another round of wine. 15 minutes later, Yuan walks in loaded with bags and Nana stares. He greets her mom as Nana's boyfriend and calls the gifts a tiny gesture. Chitao freezes mid-drink while her mom asks when this boyfriend appeared. Nana's mom shouts across the table and the whole room turns to look. Yuan opens a case packed with gold jewelry and a jade bangle. He says he isn't being kind because Nana's family will be his family. Her parents lean over the box and ask how much all of it cost. Yuan smiles and calls it nothing much, about 300,000. The whole room screams the number back at him and the blind date is dead on arrival. The blind date guy asks Nana's aunt why nobody warned him about a boyfriend. She swears she just found out and he stews over the 300,000 in gifts Yuan already handed over. He asks if the boyfriend is fake and the aunt decides to sound this kid out herself. Yuan stands beside Nana while the case of gold jewelry sits open on the table. The aunt greets him and asks his age straight away and Yuan says he is 21. Her mom does the math out loud and the aunt decides he looks more like a hired actor. Nana's dad mutters that his eyelid keeps twitching while her mom stays quiet. Yuan tells them he is still in college but invests in finance and industry on the side. The aunt asks whether he owns a house and Yuan says he owns 2 in Star City. The blind date guy calls it shameless bragging and the aunt promises to expose the lies. She lectures him about sincerity, then says any Star City house costs over $1 million. Nana's parents watch the two of them trade lines without a word of their own. Nana holds out her phone with the signed contract and the receipt from yesterday. Her mom takes the phone, and the aunt calls the whole thing a rehearsed act. Yuan promises $1 million for decorating and tells Nana to ask if she needs more. The bank message pops up on her screen, and Nana asks why decorating needs that much. Her parents count the zeros out loud, reach 6, then beg for a closer look. The aunt snatches the phone, screams that it is real, and admits she doubted him. The blind date guy sweats because $1 million is apparently not even pocket change. He quietly gathers his liquor and cigarettes, hoping to walk his gifts back out. Then he smiles again, since a rich guy like this could still become a useful contact. He asks about the houses, and Yuan says his own villa runs about 10 million. The aunt calls him a shameless bootlicker, then decides to secure her own share early. She claps and beams, and suddenly, Yuan gets promoted to President Shen. Yuan tells her not to worry because they will all be family soon anyway. Nana and her parents relax and agree that this young man is very considerate. Nana's little sister runs in and shouts for their parents, finally home. Nana points at Yuan and introduces him as her little sister's brother-in-law. The sister greets him warmly, and Yuan notices how much she resembles Nana. Yuan raises a bottle, thanks her parents, then offers to go car and house shopping. The aunt freezes with her chopsticks and wonders what kind of son-in-law does that. Her dad and mom just stare at him with no idea what to say. Outside, her dad argues that old people never drive enough to need a car this expensive. Her mom cries over the huge new house, so her dad tells her to go cook dinner instead. After dinner, Nana curls into Yuan on the couch and thanks him for all of it. He calls her his wife, and she asks about the sleeping arrangements tonight. Nana blushes and tells him to take the guest room until her parents fall asleep. At 11, she crawls onto his bed and whispers his name to see if he sleeps. Yuan catches her wrist, grinning, wide awake and waiting for exactly this. He leans over her, already aware she came in wearing absolutely nothing. She clamps a hand over her own mouth to keep the whole house from hearing. The two of them press together under the blanket, both trying to stay quiet. Down the hall, her little sister wakes up in a thin nightgown, rubbing one eye. She turns toward the guest room door because the sound comes from in there. The sister leans against the frame, red-faced, listening to every single noise. Her eye goes huge, and the sweat runs down her burning cheek. She whispers that she has watched those films with her classmates, but her brother-in-law sounds way stronger up close. Nana's little sister stands outside the guest room, red-faced and clutching her gown. She tells herself she cannot keep watching, then runs off down the hallway in slippers. An hour and a half later, Nana comes back and finds the girl tucked into her bed. Nana slips under the blanket and asks why her sister is still awake at this hour. The girl only says she wants to sleep hugging her big sister tonight. Nana pulls her in close and tells her to sleep well. The kid presses right into her, and Nana blinks at how grown up she got. The next day at school, Yingzi, his new assistant, asks Yuan how to arrange the office shelves. Yuan leans back and says the layout is fine, already marking her as quick and efficient. She reports over a dozen startup applications collected from classmates that morning. Yuan flips the stack open and tells her he will read through them right now. The top resume lists 70 kilos beside a glamour ID photo, so he skips the pictures. The proposals are a campus coffee shop and a pet store, and neither impresses him. Another classmate wants a lingerie store on campus, and his eye twitches at it. Yuan drops his head into his hand because 10 million cannot go on kids playing house. In his head, he is 80 on a beach, still working to please a little sister in a bikini. Nana and Yingzi stand together, and he wants the cafe and the incubator to teach him real business. Yuan pictures himself in a suit above the city, ready to grow a small company into a giant. He sees his own face on a magazine cover, a legend of the era instead of a poetic playboy. Back at the desk, he tells Yingzi he overestimated the students since no proposal names a real market. Yingzi answers that the sample size is probably far too small. Yuan asks whether the school committee can push the promotion harder. She says the secretary ordered full support, so campus radio airs the ad tomorrow. Yuan grins and adds a second-round exam covering business management and investment. He thanks her for the work while she writes every instruction into her notebook. His eyes narrow because ordering a talent like her around beats spending money. Yingzi waits by his desk with the tablet, and Yuan decides he needs capable staff fast. Over at the gym, a manager shouts at Menglu, Yuan's personal trainer, for coming in this late. She sits on a bench with her drink and says she messaged him for leave and told her members. Her manager throws his hands up and demands to know who approved any of that. His message offered leave in exchange for lunch, and she asks him to try anything else. The manager goes red in the face and shouts that this counts as absenteeism. Menglu walks past him and tells him to deduct whatever he wants because she quits. Two trainers ask if she really walked out since her clients all stay with the gym. One of them points through the window at the red sports car she arrived in. The manager spots a 911 and screams that she must have found a sugar daddy. Inside the car, Menglu messages Yuan that her boss fired her and she needs comfort. Yuan answers that this works out because now she can be his exclusive trainer. She asks straight away whether the exclusive job comes with any reward. He promises training plus a few dozen mini goals, and she winks about waiting in the suite. At 8:30, she blocks the door and asks if he expected to get in this late. Yuan reads the tease and decides to outpull her, so he tells her he is leaving. Menglu's mouth drops open and her arm shoots out after him. She catches his wrist and begs him to stay, and he asks who locked him out first. Yuan smirks and tells her to beg properly, so he can judge how sincere she is. She presses against his arm and asks where exactly her attitude is not sincere. Yuan turns back with her chest pinning him and holds the last of his composure. He gives in and says that for the two of them, he will stay after all. Menglu, his fitness coach, leans back on the messy bed and asks if Daddy will punish her for being naughty. Yuan grins right over her face and tells her to say that word one more time. She says it again, so he promises to turn the intensity up and kisses her down into the pillow. An hour later, Yuan asks if she was not supposed to be his exclusive trainer, then tells her not to give up now. Menglu lies wrecked in the sheets and asks where the gentleness he promised went. He says he used only 50% of the strength he uses with Nana, and she calls that a total lie. Yuan sits up and rates his cruelty skill a divine technique, but his body feels drained. The attribute panel opens with height 182, weight 70 kilos, health 69. He has dropped 2 kilos. Yuan tells Menglu they are training tomorrow morning, and she asks why he is planning it right now. He says he means real exercise, then asks her straight if he looks a bit thin these days. Menglu laughs and calls him a skinny guy, so he threatens to keep her in that bed all day. Both of them go chibi as she surrenders and says she does not dare anymore, Daddy. She wraps a towel around herself and offers a diet and workout plan after her shower. Menglu walks off saying the Junyue has a gym and she will bring him outfits tomorrow. The system fires a time-limited mission, 1 month to reach 75 kilos at low body fat, and it upgrades his physique. Yuan stares at the burning window and asks whether the father system really has a fitness panel. The readout gives him a BMI of 21.1 and body fat of 21%, so he picks his 2 targets. More sections unfold above his head, investment management and public speaking among them. He smiles because 1 month of this beats what everyone else grinds out over years. The next morning, Menglu turns up in gym gear with a lunch bag she packed at 6:30. Inside the bowl sit neat tofu cubes and boiled eggs over a bed of greens. Yuan holds his shaker and tells her the spread looks pretty impressive. She warns him not to torment her tonight the way he did last night now that he knows her effort. He raises his hands, admits she wins, and says they go down to train after eating. The gym doors open on the coach in her sports bra as she leads him inside. Every guy on the floor tracks Menglu instead of the machines while Yuan walks beside her. One lifter forgets the barbell he is loading and nearly drops a plate on his own foot. Another one loses his footing on the step machine because his eyes never left her. Menglu bends over the weight stack to move the pin while Yuan waits on the bench. A guy in headphones tells himself he cannot look again or his body will react. A huge lifter decides a weakling like Yuan does not deserve a woman this perfect. Menglu rests a hand on Yuan's knee and tells him to open the movement up instead of swinging it. Haojun, an old acquaintance, recognizes him and wonders who the beauty beside him is. Menglu passes him a bottle and says a few reps already tired him out, so he should build up slowly. Yuan drinks while she teases him about when the two of them will finally eat hot tofu. Haojun seethes because his ex-Jo wanting blocked him and he still cannot reach her. He grins and decides to expose Yuan as a guy juggling several women at once. Haojun crosses the floor toward the bench where the pair are training. He greets Yuan by name, and Yuan asks him flatly what he wants. Yuan pulls the bar back down and tells him to get lost and quit bothering them. Haojun says he is not finished, then brings up the girl Yuan took shopping at the mall. He grins to himself, waiting for the coach to explode over that other woman. 20 seconds later, Menglu is still counting reps, and neither of them reacts at all. Haojun leans in toward her and starts on the girl again, desperate for any reaction. Yuan lowers the bar with sweat running down his neck and asks Haojun since when they were ever close. Haojun keeps working on Menglu, warning her that Yuan is playing both sides. Menglu plants her hands on her hips, so Haojun snaps that Yuan spent 100,000 on bags for another woman. Menglu leans into Yuan and says it is his money to spend however he wants. Her face goes bright red while she brags about the car he bought her, worth over 2 million. Haojun grinds his teeth because he cannot work out what these two are to each other. Menglu holds a towel out and tells him to step back since his face is ruining their workout. Haojun storms off past the machines, muttering about what kind of people exist now. Yuan calls the coach his trainer and assistant, then tells Haojun to do his research. 2 hours later, Menglu praises his form and warns that tomorrow the intensity goes up. Yuan asks if this is revenge, since he raises the intensity on her every night. In the shower, he tells his coach there is one more place he needs to get familiar with. Afterwards, she asks if Daddy is heading back to the university tonight or staying in. Yuan has plans, but she turns down the huge apartment for her own small place. He agrees, then asks her to say that word again, and her affection ticks to 88. Yuan grins because 90 is close, and the system owes him a reward at that level. On campus, a guy in a brown shirt trails Yingzi, his assistant, and Yuan wonders why this creep will not leave. Yingzi apologizes for him, so the creep insists he only tagged along to help. Yuan tells him flatly that he cannot help with this, then walks Yingzi inside. The door bangs shut, and the creep works out that the blinds are down. He stands at the window, losing his mind over why an activity room needs blinds. In his head, Yuan is already kissing Yingzi, so he screams into his hands. Inside, nothing like that happens. Yuan asks at his desk how the campaign is going. Yingzi has posted everywhere already, so Yuan wants one more wave of publicity. She looks up from her tablet and asks how exactly he plans to pull that off. Yuan lifts a finger and orders posts about a 10 million investment, his name hidden. Yingzi gets it. They leak details slowly, and he shows up when the guessing peaks. He wants prestige at the school, and the daddy system hands him an industry for that money. Yingzi promises nothing slips out early, since fake accounts seed the comments first. Yuan closes his eyes and calls the plan decided, then asks about her own business. He asks straight out what she wants from him, and Yingzi manages a startled ah. She wanted romance at first, but he has a partner and no interest in her at all. Instead, she explains that marketing jobs are brutal for private university students. Yuan finds her adorably reserved and asks how much more money she is after. She floats 8,000, which triples what a fresh graduate in her major earns. Yuan adds 2,000 on top, promises bonuses, and says she works for him now. Her eye goes wide because that line about working for him might carry a second meaning. Knocking rattles the door. The creep whines that the two of them are taking too long. Yingzi turns toward the noise while Yuan decides the guy disgraces men everywhere. She offers to go calm him down, but Yuan says one small sacrifice ends this. He pulls her against the wall and kisses her before she can ask what he means. The kiss slides to her neck and leaves a bright red mark above her collarbone. The door opens. Yuan suggests a sign banning creeps from the activity room. The creep points at them both, his voice cracking, demanding to know what happened. Yingzi tucks in beside Yuan and tells him to stop coming around. She has a boyfriend. He screams the word boyfriend back at them and asks when this dating started. Yingzi says just now and asks him to keep his distance since he makes them uncomfortable. The creep drops to the floor in tears, still calling her name, and guys like him never let go quietly. The creep from the corridor finally backs off, and Yuan tells him money always wins here. Yuan just stands there with a flat little smile, barely winded by any of it. Yingzi, his secretary, grabs his arm and says that was enough. She promises the pest won't bother anyone again, and Yuan says he'll head off now. He walks down the hallway while Yingzi watches his back and quietly says his name. At home, Yuan thinks Yingzi has real secretary talent, but he still can't run a company. He taps a glowing business administration panel because money without skill means nothing. The system drops a 1-month mission, and finishing it implants a full EMBA into his brain. Yuan rubs his chin. That degree comes from the best business school in Asia. Then he remembers the counselor has a double major in business administration. Miss Lin, another woman chasing him, asks him out for drinks, and he says tomorrow. At the bar, she props up her cheek over a wine glass, annoyed at waiting a day. An hour later, his classmate Manhwa arrives in a pleated skirt, fishing for a compliment. Yuan grins and says she looks good in anything, exactly the answer she came for. She jumps into a kiss while he thinks Miss Lin can get in line. Manhwa ends up on the bed, and the system floats her affection to 93. Yuan spots the pattern. Past 90, every single point costs him more work. He kisses her neck and offers to go look at the house he promised her. She throws both arms around him and says she loves him twice in 1 second. Next morning, Manhwa walks into her dorm room and every girl stops and stares. Her roommates argue over a school post about a student funding the entrepreneurship base. One roommate clutches her head, desperate to talk, and Manhwa shushes her. Manhwa asks whether she means the live and personal maid kind of arrangement. The roommate admits she would take the mistress job, then wonders how he'd notice her. She grabs Minhui's chest and demands the truth about last night. Across campus, a student tells her classmate Yaping about the 10 million investment. Yaping isn't buying it, and her friend argues the guy must be worth 100 million. The friend would offer herself to someone that rich, and Yaping says keep dreaming. They land on Yuan instead, calling him arrogant for the coffee shop he bought an older woman. The rumor spreads over campus, with clusters of students arguing over phone screens. Yuan climbs out of a car and asks the counselor to tutor him on management. He says he wants to study seriously, and she asks what he is up to now. The car rolls down the highway while she asks if he plans anything crazy again. The counselor opens her door and makes him promise this visit stays clean. Yuan swears it with a completely straight face, and she lets him inside anyway. She brings out her old textbook with the first 3 lessons already marked. She hands it over and tells him to tie the theory to real practice. They study on the floor until sunset, the most honest he has been all week. The counselor catches him staring and tells him to look at the book. Yuan asks how a textbook could ever be prettier than she is. She goes red and reminds him he promised he only came here to study. Yuan says he did, and he also wants her as his girlfriend, and both can be true. The counselor turns away and asks what nonsense he is talking about. He hugs her from behind, and she warns him her sister is asleep next door. Yuan says that is better, because now he can announce the relationship tonight. He kisses her while she says she never agreed, and he tells her she will. She remembers the promise he made at that door and decides men are all the same. His hand catches her arm and pulls her closer, and the studying is over. She looks back and says, "No, not there, absolutely not," and it cuts right there. Her sister steps out of the bedroom in a short dress, still rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. Her hand freezes against her mouth, and her eyes go wide at what she sees. She screams at Yuan and the counselor on the couch, asking what the hell they think they are doing. Yuan turns his head toward the door while the shouting keeps coming at his back. The counselor claps a hand over her own mouth and says her sister has seen everything. Yuan tells her the sister would find out anyway, so today works fine. She just calls him stupid. The counselor is red to her ears because she never even agreed to be his girlfriend yet. Yuan takes her by the shoulders and asks the counselor straight out if she likes him. She admits she likes him a little, then hides behind the student and counselor rule. Her affection ticks up 2 points, and Yuan knows money buys him nothing with this one. He tells her he is not giving up, and she has no answer ready for that at all. Yuan grabs his phone off the table and says he is heading out until next time. The counselor calls toward the bedroom that the hiding part is over now. Her sister walks in asking if they are done, while the counselor picks up the fallen tablet. The sister asks if they are a couple now and if she should start saying brother-in-law. The counselor says no, so the sister wants to know how they did that without dating first. The counselor admits they never reached the final step, then says she has no plan at all. At night, Yuan turns up at the cafe with both hands buried in his pockets. Miss Lin apologizes for pulling him over while she has been feeling low lately. Yuan sits down across the little table and asks her what is making her unhappy. Her husband keeps skipping nights at home and walks back in smelling of another woman. She decides a drink costs her nothing, then asks whether Nana is his girlfriend. Her guard is dropping fast. Yun says you could say so, and she asks if Nana knows about tonight. He tells her no and adds that even if Nana knew, she would not care one bit. Miss Lin decides that answer clears her conscience, since nobody's feelings get stepped on. She holds her glass and quietly asks Yuan for a hug, even a short one. Yuan leans back in his chair and tells her to come closer. She rises from her seat and her hand slides along the edge of the table. She settles onto his lap while Yuan asks if her husband knows about this drink. She tells him not to mention that person, then kisses him with no warning at all. Yuan kisses her back and thinks he is disrespecting Nana inside her own coffee shop. He pulls away and says he can't, then calls himself a scumbag for overthinking it. Miss Lin asks what is wrong and offers to help him relax instead. Yuan sees cupids and a marble fountain and asks himself if this is heaven. Half an hour later, Miss Lin kneels there flushed and completely out of breath. Yuan stands over her and tells her to clean him up. She leans in with her eyes shut while his hand rests in her hair. Yuan decides young guys waste years chasing girls instead of grown women. The system fires off because 5 women sit above 60 affection and the stage mission is done. Yuan spreads his arms on the bench, thrilled that the system counts heads too. The first reward hands him photographic memory for 1 hour of reading. The second one is a lottery that can pay out in cash or even whole properties. His eye lights up gold, while Miss Lin says this half hour made her happier than ever. She stands up and straightens her dress right next to him. Yuan watches her from his seat without saying a word. Miss Lin looks back over her shoulder and promises they will continue next time. Yuan freezes on that word and wonders if she wants him as a long-term arrangement.